Hey guys, welcome into today's video. This is going to be a brand new series on my channel. It's going to be a foundation a day for 42 days. The reason that I wanted to start this video is that I have 51 foundations in my permanent collection. It's the number 2 item, maybe number 1 right now, of makeup that I really like testing. I'm really into testing new foundations. It switches back and forth usually between blush, eyeshadow, and foundation, my 3 favorite makeup categories, probably a lot of people's favorite makeup categories. But 51 foundations is just too much for me to have in my collection. I recently did a makeup declutter, and I will link that up in the cards, where I went through my whole collection and I decluttered, breaking some of my makeup into 3 different categories: keep, declutter, and then I made up a third, which was items that I want to keep for reference, but I'm going to take out of my permanent collection and move into the closet where I keep makeup that I think is popular, relevant, things that I may want to reference in future videos, but that I don't want to use in my personal everyday life. But I did not do that with foundation. And recently I've gone through a really big skin change. In the last 8 months to a year, I have gone from really, really dry skin to very, very oily skin, and a lot of foundations that used to work for me that were more on the dewy, natural finish side just aren't working these days. So I'm grabbing and loving more matte foundations. So some of my foundations in my collection predate my skin change. So the reason for this series, I don't want to just declutter foundations based on memory. I want to retest a lot of them because some of them are pretty expensive. Some of them I may re-love, some of them I may not like or may not work for me now, and it's time to make that determination. So while I have 51 foundations in my collection, this is foundation a day for 42 days because there are 9 foundations I have already made a decision on. Some of them I'm actually testing. They haven't gone into speed reviews, but I've worn them very recently, so I know exactly how I feel about them, but I will have to move them into wherever they're going to go, keep, declutter, or in the reference pile. And then there are some that I'm testing that I already absolutely love, haven't gone into a speed reviews, and I know that I'm going to be keeping them. And then 2 of them I have already made the decision that I'm going to declutter. So welcome into day 12. You guys, we're doing the Shiseido Synchro Skin. This one is the Radiant Lifting version. If you guys are new to my series, day 12 seems like a huge feat on these wear tests, but I am trying to work through it by the end of the year to get through the 42 foundations that I said I was gonna test to keep or declutter. So let's talk a little bit about this one, and then I'll tell you guys what I remember about it. Oh, and by the way, I was playing with the new Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette, so that's what's on my eyes today. I will have that video up already before this video goes up. So this one has an SPF of 30. It retails for $47, comes in 30 shades. I have mine in the shade 160 Shell. It comes with 1.2 fluid ounces. This is made in the US. It has a 24-month shelf life. It's supposed to be medium to full buildable coverage with a radiant finish and offer 24-hour hydration. It's supposed to be transfer, water, crease, smudge, and fade resistant. I will tell you what I remember about this is that it separated on my skin. I think it was a little bit too full coverage for me back when I had really dry skin. I have not touched this foundation since I have turned more like combo oily. I'd say I'm more combo right now as the weather is drier, but in the summer I'm like a sweaty hot mess. This has SPF of 30 in it, so there are oftentimes certain sunscreens, whether they're chemical sunscreens or mineral sunscreens, that can kind of mesh with my skin and cause it to not work as well on me. This one has octinoxate as the SPF ingredient in here. I'm definitely really excited to try this particular one again because of my skin change. In fact, I'd like to try and maybe go in with less coverage than I have historically. The reason that I picked this up a while ago is because I heard a lot of people talk about the Shiseido foundation and that it was one of their holy grails and it working really well for them. So I was a little disappointed when this didn't work for me. I want to say it's been like 6 months since I've touched this foundation. So if you guys are new to this video, I do apply one side with a brush and one side with a sponge. I haven't really noticed in any of my wear tests so far like a preferred method. There wasn't like one that I specifically loved more with a brush or one more with a sponge. I think that looks pretty good. I want to say I went in maybe a little bit heavier than I was hoping for because I think this is more full coverage right away, at least the amount that I used. I really want to love this. I want this to work for me. The idea of it, like in theory, transfer, water, crease, smudge, and fade resistant, so good, especially in a climate like Florida that's really, really humid. Something that's water resistant, transfer resistant. Most of my foundations transfer. So this ideally is like the kind of foundation that I would really love. Again, having used this 6 months ago when my face was a lot drier, the radiant finish was a little bit more appealing. Now I have been grabbing for matte foundations basically exclusively at this point. I didn't take everything that I pumped onto the back of the hand. This is a damp sponge. And there's the right side with the sponge. I actually think I prefer the right side with the sponge more. I know I just got through saying like I haven't seen a big distinction between the two, but this side kept its radiance a little bit more and it just looks a little bit smoother on the skin, probably because of the consistency of this, that it's just a little bit of a thicker consistency. So bouncing it into the skin really like pushed it in and it just looks nicer on this side, at least from kind of this distance. It's a little bit maybe on the heavier side and that's why it didn't work for me, because a lot of foundations when I had dry skin had to be really, really thin. Otherwise, they didn't seem to sink into my pores. Not that I had many back then, you just couldn't see a lot of them. They seemed very closed, and so anything that didn't absorb into my skin just sat on top of it. This looks so much nicer than when I tried this 6 months ago. So far I'm really excited. Those are my initial thoughts. I'm gonna go finish my complexion. I will be right back. Surprisingly, love this foundation a lot more than I did. I told you guys last time I touched it. I feel like what I wanted to get out of it originally is kind of what I'm getting out of it now, because I never put this on immediately and fell in love with it. It wasn't like it looked good right away and then it faded and it looked worse. It always kind of sat on my skin before when it was much drier, which I think is like counterintuitive. Something that says radiant lifting, I feel like it was made for dry skin. I'm gonna do the wear test now, so that means I go away. I do a natural light check-in for you guys on my phone so you can see it out in the sunlight. Then I do it again at 4 hours so you can see how it's wearing. I wanna say midday, but you guys, a 12-hour day is how long I wear my foundations on a normal basis. So 8 hours is kind of the minimum, meaning that if I have a longer day, I will come up here later, like 10 and a half, 11 hours, and then I will show you guys how everything looks. And then also, I will decide whether or not this stays or whether it goes. So far, if you guys are not up to the tally, on day 11, I ended up keeping 6 and then decluttering 5. So I have kept more than I have decluttered. Not that I'm in a race for myself or with myself, but I am kind of hoping that I am able to cut my collection in half by the end of the year. I really need to speed this up because we are in November and I doubt that I'm gonna be able to make it, but in case you're not following along with this series and you're just interested in this foundation, hopefully it's helpful. I will see you guys in at least 8 hours. You will see me in just moments. Welcome back. It's been almost exactly 8 hours actually. I think we started filming, I wanna say like just before 10 o'clock and it's just after 6 o'clock now. So it's maybe a little bit sooner than I would normally like come up to do the wear test if I was wearing it for like a full day's wear, but I feel pretty good about it. It's come off a little bit on my nose. You can definitely see a little bit of redness like peeking through on my nose. But aside from that, it's pretty much intact like everywhere else. And as far as it looking in comparison to some of the other wear tests, you guys, it still looks really good. Let me like zoom in here so you guys can see. It's not separating, it's not looking super heavy, it doesn't look cakey or dry anywhere. It just looks like my natural oils are peeking through basically, which is fairly normal for any foundation when it's sitting on my combo / oily skin. So I am resolved, and I'm going to my little notes here. This being day 12, I feel like this is a foundation, even though it says radiant skin, is better suited for combo to oily skin. I think it's more of a satin finish foundation. I don't think it's overly radiant, even though this describes itself as, let me see my notes here, radiant finish. I don't think it has an overly radiant finish. I'll just kind of say that much. I think that it's not as hydrating as it kind of claims to be, which is the 24-hour hydration. Again, I don't get that a lot from satin finish foundation. And I kind of felt like this was gonna do better on me this time around because my skin is more oily than it used to be. I don't think this works well for dry skin. I just have to say it. Here are my notes. Days 1 through 11, the tallies were, I kept 6 and I had decluttered 5. I'm gonna make this keep 7. That still leaves declutter 5. I think this is so good for me right now. I love the way that this lasted throughout the day. I'm really excited that this works for me. Here is my outro. If you guys are not currently subscribed, I would love to see you subscribe so that you can stick around for days 13 through 42, a foundation a day for 42 days. I am out of here, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye, guys.